movies that were that objectionable, but I think all actors and musicians, and because there's a lot of music component to these films. I went to Comic-Con and Justin Timberlake was there for Trolls and everything. When you have children, there is that pull. You do want to do movies that kids can appreciate, and I'm in a business which is a funny business because like my daughter goes to school with Jimmy Fallon's daughter, and they were going around. I wasn't there, but I was told they were going around the room. And they were like, "What does your daddy do?" And your mom, "What does your mommy do? What's their work?" And they go, "What does your daddy do, Carmen?" She goes, "My daddy's an actor and he's on TV. And my daddy's very funny." And they get to Fallon's daughter. She goes, "My daddy's an actor. He's on TV, and my daddy's very, very funny."
My dad's funnier than your dad.
And I turn to Carmen and I go, "You really have to accept that, Carmen. That Winnie's dad is funnier than your dad. There's nothing we can do about that." So.
Quick question. What is it like? What is the voice acting process like?
I think you work with them. They think that you've demonstrated some ability to do something in the neighborhood of what they want, and it's a process of a couple of sessions, maybe 2 or 3, where you iron it out, and it's like anything. I was talking to Megan Mullally in a podcast interview I did with her about how everybody in the first season of Will and Grace is unrecognizable from what they are in the 3rd season. You push further and develop and make it your own. And I mean, there was a kind of vocalizing that Megan said she did in that character that was just really a big reach for her, And but I think that they asked me to do this, and we do a couple sessions where we kind of find it in terms of volume. You can't be. What I always say to Tom, and we would come back to this. This might have been my one persistent note, which we can't have an equivalency of value to everything. You can't have every scene be I'm screaming at the top of my lungs saying this is the most important thing in the movie. Okay, forget about that. Now this is the most important thing in the movie, and the kind of an emphasis that you have to vary, and we have to earn the moments when we're really, really, go nuts and become undone. And so I think that, to me, is to find the sheet music of the movie. We're going to go up here, and then we're going to come down here, we're going to go up here, we're going to try to vary as much as possible.
You mentioned the likability and going with the whole acting process. Your character is pretty insufferable for the first few scenes, and by the end of the movie he arcs. Now, how do you tone that vocally in a performance where you're really not seen?
Well, I've always been someone who wanted to work the mic in that way, and whatever kind of stuff I've done. If I'm doing a reading of a book or a play, I've done readings of. I remember we used to do this readings at a Symphony Space in Manhattan, the Arts Center up on the Upper West Side, and Symphony Space had a program called Selected Shorts. They still have, where all these well-known people would come in and read short literary material, and I would read John O'Hara. We would do all this different. I did a bunch of those programs years ago before I had kids again, and when I had more time. And and when we do that, many people just read in a very kind of a certain style, and then other people kind of act it and get into the mic and try to delineate between what's the copy and what's the quotes, the performance of the character in the piece. So I've always been very, very interested in doing that and finding the highs and the lows of your voice in terms of volume, in terms of emphasis, in terms of pace. Taking a really long pause. I'll never forget we were doing Saturday Night Live, and I'm Trump, and I'm receiving a bunch of people are coming in to meet with me, and Jason Sudeikis came on as Romney, and Jason Sudeikis came in, and if you watch the clip, he stands there and we shake hands and we don't say a thing to each other for the longest beat I've ever seen in a comedy show in my life. Because I guess the idea was he was coming in, I was vetting people to be in my cabinet. And literally Jason sat there going, nothing's given. And it went on for like 60 seconds, which is an eternity. And then finally Jason goes, "We're not doing this, are we?" And I go, "No, we're not doing this." And but that idea of Jason, it was his line. He was the one that had to break the moment. And I thought, God, what an amazing thing he did, where he just took his time. And that's the basic idea of what I try to do, is you try, and they might come back to you and say, don't do that. We want it to be different. Don't do this dialect. We did a lot of dialects, you know. We created our version of Boss Baby being playful and doing silly things. We had a character we wrote called Senior Bacon. I took a piece of bacon off a plate and I put it under my mouth like this, so I got a mustache. And I was like, hello, I'm Senior Bacon. And I mean, we did this whole crazy improv thing, which was really funny, but funny is one thing, but does it fit into the film? So that got cut out. And although we may do a whole Senior Bacon film, I think that would be really, really worth it. I would love to play Senior Bacon. Really very funny. But anyway, the idea, and the other thing of the idea is, I'm not making the movie, nor do I want to. You know, there's a way this thing fits. These people, the men and women that do this, know what they're doing, and I come in a highly collaborative process and make my contribution, and someone else makes the movie, thankfully, because Tom knows you got to give this movie the stick all the way to the finish line, and then you slow down at the end to have the heartfelt moment. But they pace this thing up like, I don't need to tell you, they pace it up in a way even I couldn't believe it.
Perfectly.
I would I said to Tom one point, I go, don't you want to slow down the movie? They were like, no.
You played a boss for so many years on 30 Rock. Did that help you with your character on Boss Baby?
I think so. I think that Boss Baby, the character, I feel funny talk about him like he's Willie Loman here out of Arthur Miller or something. But I think the Boss Baby character is even more Machiavellian than Donaghy was on the show. Because Donaghy was somebody who you always wanted to surf or kind of slalom the public-private membrane. You know, so when I'm in public, I think I know everything and I'm talking to people, I'm very confident. And then when I'm home alone, I'm like, oh God, you know, I'm a mess and I don't really know what I'm talking about, and I'm filled with fear and insecurity. And you always wanted to do that, just have Donaghy in public and then in private. And I think that Boss Baby is the same in public and in private. He's just completely self-reliant and self-motivated.
So when did you know you wanted to be Boss Baby?
When did I know I don't follow what you mean.
Like, when did you know you wanted to take the role that you did?
Oh, well, I guess when they came to me and they offer you the part, I mean, you don't say yes to every part. I mean, you say no to most parts, but they do a presentation. You sit down and go through that with them, with Jeffrey, and because Katzenberg still owned the company back then when we started. That's how much time it takes. In the time we've been doing the movie, Katzenberg sold the company, which was kind of amazing. I sat down with them, and I'd worked with Tom and Ramsey, Naito, and I think I always say yes because it's not, time-wise, it's not that awful a commitment. The challenge is to maintain a kind of truth to the character over years of time. I do a session, I don't see them for a couple months. I do a session, I don't see them for a couple months. I might see them in 6 weeks, I might see them in 12 weeks. And getting back into the studio and getting into that Boss Baby mindset. Because to play these characters, you might come to work, I know this sounds funny, but you might come to work and just don't feel like being that guy that day. Maybe you've had a very fragile day, you're feeling like what you really want to do is like sit in a chair and just stare out the window for about 2 hours. It's like something awful has happened or something difficult you're facing, and you don't really feel like, you don't feel very confident. You don't feel very confident or super confident. You feel a little quiet. And then you've got to go in there and be like this cracking whip all the time. It's not hard, but it's just different. So you go in there, you have to kind of get into it for a while. And I've done some sessions where the first hour what we did, we just had to burn it, just do it all over again, like another day.
Is there anything you do mentally or even physically that helps you get over that hump for those moods? And
Like the old reliable is coffee. We drink a lot of coffee. We go in there, our head's gonna pop off. Yeah, it's a chemically induced performance. But I think, and it's also you have to have fun. Like if I've done things that they might be in drama, they're not necessarily fun. They're more challenging dramatically. you get involved, you get in front of a movie camera, and it's hopefully, I haven't always gotten this right, it's more what you don't do than what you do. It's really laying back, and you're not telling the story, the director, the camera. You just have to be there and be kind of quiet, if you will, or contained. And you don't have to do all the storytelling with your acting. But with things like Boss Baby, you have to infuse it with some degree of fun. You have to do, even when you're crying, there's a way you cry. You know what I mean? Well, what happens? Like in real life, people try not to cry. Like they always tell you that in acting school, they say you need to suppress. If you're going to do a scene, you don't just blubber and start crying. You want to be suppressing those emotions and trying not to cry. And then, of course, you can't control yourself when you cry. But in a real scene, in a real drama, you're trying to manage your emotions. And in Boss Baby, everybody is like right out front with their emotions. The Boss Baby's like, oh God! You're just screaming and crying and feeling sorry for himself. And Boss Baby feels sorry for himself a lot because people won't do exactly what he wants them to do. But I think you have to make it a little silly. You want it to be kind of truthful.
Time for about one more question.
The film has a couple different types of animation in it. Did you see character mock-ups or what Boss Baby would look like before you voiced it? Or
He showed me some of that, but I have the same attitude, I must say, toward that as when I do a film, which is I look at it and I take it in, but it doesn't really affect what I do. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
They're the ones doing I don't sit there and go, oh, maybe his eyes should be blue, my eyes are green. And I never do that. I never give them my opinion about the visual. I never go, Boss Baby's head is really, that's a really pretty, you're really pushing the limits there with the size. The head to body ratio is really a lot. You know, his head looks like a sofa, like a piece of furniture. Whatever you say, whatever you think, I don't get involved in that at all. I mean, all I do is just do what I do, which is to try to make him sound like this lovably desperate person.
If the script and the timing were right, would you consider doing a sequel?
Oh yes, I mean I think when you have a movie that has been as successful as this one has, that would be great. I'd love to do that. That'd be wonderful.
Maybe Senior Bacon comes there.
I don't. We'll see. We'll see. They have no shortage of ideas, so I'm sure that they have that up their sleeve. But yeah, I'm very grateful for the success of the film because, as you know, there's a lot of films that come out. You go to festivals and you see films and TV pilots, for that matter, that are very good. They don't make it. I mean, a lot of what doesn't make it deserves to not make it. But a lot of stuff that does not make it is good. And what they lacked was a luck and a good marketing program. But we had a good movie and we had good marketing, so it really came together beautifully.
You mentioned Willy Loman, and you're a huge film buff, and I saw The Apartment in this. I saw Billy Wilder and a lot of sharp spoof of American business, and for parents, especially who work in business, how do you feel about the fact that they're going to go and say to their kids, "This is what it's like. This is what my boss is like."
Well, hopefully they won't do that. Their kids will cry knowing that mommy and daddy are going to work, being abused by some monster, some crazy monster. But I think that you have to give kids now, at a certain age, a little bit more reality than they did years ago. Cartoons were so much more naive back then, and now kids are so much sharper. I mean, my daughter is 3.5, and I mean, naturally, a lot of it is inherent to her as an individual. But I do think that kids her age are getting a little sharper, a little quicker. Like my daughter, my wife was born in the U.S. but raised in Spain, and so she's Spanish and is fully fluent in Spanish. Obviously, that's her primary language. And my daughter is fully bilingual. She's 3.5. And in my house, I'm the pincushion there that way. And my daughter will literally look to my wife. This is like a year ago. She looks at her with like the greatest level of judgment you could possibly have. She was like, "Daddy only speaks English, Mommy." Daddy just is not like you and me. It's smart like you and me. And you see that they're that super smart kids, and I think my daughter is very smart, and just kids in general that age, like 3 and up, they're putting the pieces together a lot quicker than people did when I was a kid.
Is she the boss baby of your family?
She's
then?
total. Oh my God, it's unbelievable. It's like nothing can prepare you.
That's all the time we have.